Hey everyone, FuseMan coming at you today, and decided to mix things up this week by actually giving a 3D modeling tutorial. And if you know me, I am no 3D artist in general, but super excited to bring Abdo on, who you may have been chatting with in the chat during the live stream. And he's going to be leading this tutorial, and I'm super excited to try this out, and I hope you all enjoy.
Hello everyone, I'm Abdo, and today I'm going to be showing you how I created this bow, which we have used in the bow and arrow game in the live stream a few weeks ago. Now, if you haven't seen that live stream, a link to that video is going to be at the end of this video. I'm going to be using Blender to create this bow, and if you don't have it installed, go to blender.org and download it. It's free and it's open source, and it's also very lightweight. It's about 50 or 60 megabytes. So to get started, I'm going to be showing you how the end result is going to look like. It's a basic texture and basic modeling. Just it has this rig, which like if you hold down on the string, if you drag backwards, the string is going to go backwards as well. That's like basic rigging. And we have this rig which moves the entire bow, and we have a bonus arrow in the middle, which is not so obvious. Let me just try to drag it. It says arrow. There you go. Now let's get started. Just go to File, New, and Confirm, and it's going to load you a new scene. You probably have found this when you launched the Blender the first time. Now before you get started, before you do anything, just go to File, User Preferences, and do a few things to have the same experience as I am and be able to follow along with the tutorial. First of all, go to Input, and if you haven't seen or used Blender before, this is going to be counterintuitive to you, but Blender for some reason has the right mouse button as the main selection button in the entire program. So you want to change that to left, unless you're comfortable with the right mouse button, I don't know. And also check this box which says Emulate Numpad, and I'll explain later what that does. Also, there is a theme. In the themes which I'm using, it gives me this blue interface. If you're enjoying that or want to see it, just go to themes and then choose our theme in here, and it's going to look the same thing. And make sure you save user settings and just close. So I'm not going to be showing you, like, I'm not going to be explaining what Blender does and what each button is doing, but I'm going to be walking you through the steps on how to create the bow, model it, and possibly rig it. If you want to understand what's going on, everything, I recommend you go watch another tutorial which is like an introduction to Blender and explains a few things here and there. But in here, I'm just going to keep it general. As a basic navigation, you hold the middle mouse button and you move your mouse around. It's going to rotate around the center of the scene. If you want to pan around, just hold the Shift key while you're holding the middle mouse, and it's going to start panning around. Another thing you need is if you're rotating around the scene and then you hold the Alt key, it's going to start snapping to one of the views. There is on the top left panel, this says right perspective, left or back, front, left and front. And then there is the top and the bottom. You need those to be able to model correctly, especially if you're modeling out of reference. Remember that checkbox I told you to check. If you have a laptop and you click 5 on your numpad, it's gonna change the view from perspective to orthogonal, which is so useful for you to be able to model things, especially if you're using a reference, which you're gonna be using in this tutorial. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind while modeling for VR. One, the number of triangles or polygons in general in your model. And Blender does a good job of keeping that number for you, and you get to see here the number of vertices in the scene and the number of faces and the number of trees or triangles, as well as the number of objects in the scene, which is so useful to keep in mind, especially the triangles, since if you're using Unity or even Unreal, like any game engine uses triangles instead of quads. So keep in mind this number right here, it's 12. Generally, if you're creating models for mobile, I would say a good number per model, like if you have a character, I would say a good number would be between 2,000 and 3,000 triangles. The second thing you need to keep in mind for VR is the scale, which is why this grid is right here for us. And if I go to one of the views, front for example, you will notice this is a grid, and if I go to the scene properties here in Blender, the unit says none. It means it's just a basic unit. If we go to metric, it's gonna show us here 10 centimeters is the thick grid line, This is entire thing 1 meter. The smaller grid lines are 10 centimeters each. So this entire cube is 2 meters. And we can see that here in the panel. If you don't have this panel on, just push the N key on your keyboard. It's going to show you dimensions of the cube is like 2 meters on each axis. So to start with the bow, let me load a reference image which I have for the bow that I have previously created. Just minimize Blender a little bit and go to your reference and just drag into the background. You can do this manually, but this is the fastest way. And I know in general that bows are about 1 to 1.4 meters. Those are like the bigger bows. We're just gonna keep this about 1 meter, 80 centimeters. I know this cube is 2 meters wide. So let's go to edit mode. Edit mode is gonna allow us to edit the different vertices and edges of the cube, and this is the modes where you can change between editing or selecting edges, faces, or vertices. So let's go back to the front view, select, go to tab view. This is edit mode, this is object mode. Let's go to edit mode. Again, using the tab key, you can navigate between the two. Hit the Z, it's going to show us the skeleton, or like the transparent kind of like X-ray view. So I'm going to be scaling this cube down a notch about this big, and I can do this actually if we hit the tab key again. I can do this and say I want my cube to be 1 meters in the Z direction. And then I'm going to go down, scroll down in here in this panel, and go to background images, and as you can see, this is the name of the image we loaded. Right now it's set to be shown in all views, so if we show a front view, left view, back view, I want to restrict it to one of the views, the right view preferably. So let's go there and then just restrict to the right view. So now if I go to another view, it's not going to be there. And then next we're going to scale the image, the reference image, down to be around the boundaries of the box. That means our bow is going to be about 1 meter height if we model it correctly. And this is a good thing to do in VR, keeping scale, so that if you go to the game engine, you don't have to scale anything. You'll find everything in the right scale for you, and that's going to just make things faster for you. Another way of doing this, if you don't know the measurement, the specific measurement of the model, another general rule of thumb about scale is if you don't know the specific scale of the model, you can just download a free human 3D model and just drop it in the scene. Make sure the human model is in the right scale, like say 6 feet tall or something, and then just model everything that you don't know the scale of in relation to that human being, and you'll know. You can basically just sense it with your eyes how big or small things should be. So anyways, now that we have that set up, I'm just go to edit mode again, scale this cube way down till it starts matching this little element right here we have in the bow. And since the two top and bottom part of the bow are identical, we can just model the top part and then duplicate it down. And to do that, cut the cube in half. So Control R to make a loop cut, which is this purple line right here. Hit the left mouse button and then the right mouse button to confirm, and then you have a loop cut. And what we're going to do is hit A, which will deselect everything that is currently selected, and then hit B to make this box selection. Then we're just going to drag and let go, and it's going to select the bottom portion of the cube or the bottom vertices. Just hit X, delete vertices. And now we're just going to focus on the top part. So hit G. G is going to allow you to move whatever is selected. So if you hit G and then start moving the mouse, you can left click to confirm or right click to cancel the movement. So we're going to do this and hit the Y. It's going to restrict it to this axis, and then just do the same thing in here. And we're going to drag and go up. The approach I'm using right here to model this is called the box modeling approach, and it's very useful to allow you to quickly block out objects, simple objects like these, and then apply subdivision later on, which I'm going to show you. So I'm going to select this, go to object mode, select this again, duplicate, and then put it right here, go to edit mode, select the top edges, Select the bottom ones, scale these bottom ones, then scale the bigger ones. Duplicate again. We can take two approaches in here. I'm just gonna add the loop cut right in the middle, scale it, bring it downwards a little bit to match that lower part, bring down this one, and you can either continue doing loop cuts or hit A for extrusion and extrude this part right here and scale it down a little bit, scale until it matches, then extrude, scale, move around till it matches. Keep doing this. Right here you need to rotate, so hit R and then rotate. It's gonna start rotating for you the edges. Make sure you do this for the rest of them so that you'd have a consistent mesh. And having consistent meshes, clean meshes, is good for you. Like when you're applying physics later or trying to do texturing, which we're going to cover in the next part of this tutorial if you guys want that. Make extrusion again, scale it. Keep doing the same thing, extrude and then scale. And now we have this part ready. We're gonna do duplicate this smaller part because I'm kind of lazy to create another cube. Rotate, scale, then rotate, scale. Keep doing the same thing. Extrude, rotate, and scale till it matches. Having a good reference is actually a very good thing. It makes modeling process a breeze if you know what you're doing. Just gonna match that smaller part. We don't have to get it exactly right because we're gonna fix that later on. The last part, we're just gonna duplicate this simple part again, rotate it around, and scale this a little bit. Rotate, add a loop cut, scale. Extrude. And we're basically done. One more thing we need to do before we finish this is make sure these edges go well within the other parts of the objects. And then there is a reason I did this as separate objects. Now we have this basic shape which is like square. It doesn't look like a bow much, but there is an easy fix for that. Go to modifiers tab right here, click then add modifier, then go to subdivision surface. I actually forgot to do thing. Just let me undo that. Before you do that, actually just hit B box selection, select all of these. It's going to select all objects. Now that all objects are selected, we need to make them one mesh instead of these separate meshes. So just Control J. That's going to merge the meshes into one mesh. And then we need to fix the pivot point. Right now, if I rotate, I don't want that. I need to have the pivot point right here, so that when I duplicate this top part, it doesn't give me a lot of problems. So to do that, I'm just going to go to edit mode again. And actually, before we do that, I need to fix something. So if I click add modifier, and then subdivision surface. You'll notice a small problem. Small problem being that some parts are looking fine, but some parts are looking kind of wonky, not the exact thing we want. So if you see here, it looks like it's actually a sharp edge instead of this. And there is an easy fix for that. It always happens whenever you apply subdivision surface in 3D model, and this happens. And so we can fix that real quick. What you need to do is go to edit mode again and make a loop cut right around the edge. And if you can see, I don't know if it's so obvious, but if you can see, if I hit the loop cut, you're gonna see that the edges are becoming tucked around, and right away we see another problem, that these faces are not closed as it's supposed to be. So I meant for this to be open, but the rest of them I want them to be closed. So there's an easy fix for that as well. Just hold the Alt key, make sure everything is deselected, and hold the Alt key and click one of the vertices. It's gonna make a loop selection, and then just hit F. It's gonna make a face. Again, hit the Alt. If you do it right, it's gonna okay, just a second. Sometimes it's hard because it's within another object, so just do the box selection, hit F, it closes the face. Same thing in here. You don't have to do this, but it's preferable if you close the faces of each object. So hit F and everything is closed. Now, like I said, it's going to be presenting this problem, and we need sharp edges like we did before. We're just going to be able to quickly fix this by making loop cuts around the edges of each object. Make one here and make one here, scale it to better match the object, make another one here. There we go. Just gonna be doing selection right here, select, rotate. Right here over, well, there's we have a choice where to make that cut. Bring it down a bit, and then just another cut over here. Maybe another cut. The next thing we need to do is to fix the pivot point of this object. There is also an easy fix for that. Just make sure that nothing is selected. Hold the B, make a box selection. Everything is selected. If you set this, if this is set to median point, which is like the middle point of this, and this is where we want our pivot point to be, go to Shift S and then cursor to selected. It's going to set a certain cursor there. Don't worry about this process too much. Just go to object mode, origin to 3D cursor, and now we have the pivot point where we want it. Now that that's set up, Shift R and then rotate 180 degrees, and then rotate again and hold the Z and make 180 degrees again. Now we have a bow. Just gonna connect the two. And now we have a very decent bow. What's left is the string. You notice it's lower quality, but it's a good number of triangles. It's about 2000, which is nice. Like, well, we are well within range. We can fix that, bring it much lower, but we won't be going through this. And as I did before, I'm just gonna move this to the side and then just make several cuts in here and then several cuts in here, and make this slightly, looks like it's being curved. And there we have it. Next, we need to do a string. We can do it in here. Just go to Shift A and then add a cylinder. Make sure this is about 6 faces, so it's like a simple geometry, and then just go to edit mode, scale down all the way down. Maybe just scale towards the Z, right there. Of course, scale it again, just hit S for scale. Then if you hit Shift Z, it's going to exclude the Z from scaling, so we're just going to scale around the X and Y axes. And now we have the string. Rotate around and then scale it up a little bit. Again, just scale it a tiny bit, and then we can do something very simple in here by making that sort of a crease. If we make a loop cut, bring it all the way here, then just select these and scale them all the way to 0. We have this sharp object from the front, and then just make another loop cut right here, perhaps to this end. It's a little too big. Go all the way here. Then just extrude, and we're gonna need to extrude these to the either side, so just go to extrude and then region vertex normals. That's gonna extrude to either side instead of just normal extrude. And we're gonna shrink both edges down a notch. And there you have it. Of course, it's still looking weird. Let's go to edges, select both of these, and then just bring them down all the way. Maybe scale these both to the x-axis, and yeah, maybe move them apart a bit. So now we have the bow, the arrow, and everything is in place. The next part of this video would be texturing and rigging. If you guys have anything else in mind you want to see, or if you have any specific feedback you want me to go slower or cover more advanced stuff, just let us know below in the comments. That's it, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next parts. It's been Abdo, over and out.
And now we know how to build a bow and arrow for virtual reality, which is pretty cool. So, hope you all learned something from that video. I know I did. And if you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, if you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe or follow us on social media. If you're now excited to implement this in VR, click the box on the left for our bow and arrow live stream where we do just that. Or to see last week's live stream, click the box on the right.